Hello, my name is Jennifer Persaud. This webinar is aimed to provide you with information that will then empower you to understand more about exercise. Okay, so the aims of the webinar are to enable you to be better informed about the benefits of participation in exercise, to teach you some basics of exercises that you could be doing at home. And this should give you the information to inspire you and build your confidence so that you can participate in exercise at home. And that that's with the aim of providing you with a strategy to assist management of your arthritis. So why is it important that you exercise? Well, it's because there is very strong evidence that shows that adults who are physically active have lower rates of coronary heart disease, hypertension, stroke, diabetes, and even colon and breast cancer. And with relevance to people who are living with arthritis and related conditions, there's particular importance for engaging in exercise because overall it improves your functional health. It also provides a lower risk of falling, and that's important, of course, to anyone, but particularly so if you have osteoporosis and increased risk of fracture. Exercise also helps to maintain a healthier body weight and composition. Now, if you are overweight or obese, we know that that adds to pain and dysfunction as the weight is increased across the joint surfaces. So participating in physical activity can help to maintain a healthy weight. So how much exercise should you be engaging per week? Well, the World Health Organization has released global recommendations on physical activity for health. And for adults who are 65 years and above, and even below that age, you need to be engaging in exercise regularly. And that means 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic physical activity every week. I will speak a bit later about what moderate and vigorous means, but essentially you should be exercising on most days of the week. If you want to complete your exercise in bouts, they should be complete in at least 10 minutes duration for each bout. You should also be engaging in muscle strengthening activities at least 2 days a week, and also balance activities are particularly important for older adults with poor mobility and falls risks. This particular webinar will speak only to strengthening and aerobic type activities. Just a note about safe participation in exercise. If you have never exercised before, you should go through a screening process to make sure that you are safe. And a really good general screening test is the Adult Pre-Exercise Screening System, APSS. It's in front of you now. There are 6 questions that you need to ask yourself. You can see those 6 questions. I won't read them out. If you answer yes to any of those questions, you must seek guidance from your medical practitioner to gain approval to engage safely in an exercise program. So we're going to now launch into strengthening exercise. So what are they? They're the kind of exercises that are typically depicted by weightlifting. They don't have to be weightlifting exercises. It's resistance exercise that causes the muscle to generate more force, and this means that you can push more and lift heavier. They're really quite important for you to be engaging in when you have arthritis and related conditions, because they do provide joint protection. So stronger, more robust muscle will provide greater protection around your joint, greater strength around the joint. It will also help to counteract sarcopenia, which is the natural loss of muscle mass associated with aging. So how do you do these exercises? Well, the first thing to say is start with gravity resisted exercises. So not loading up your joints with resisted equipment. So I'm going to just switch so that you can see me, and I'll show you an example of what I mean by gravity resisted exercise. So I might want to exercise my shoulders and my elbows. So I might choose to do a press type exercise. So I'm pushing up against gravity. I don't actually have any weight in my hands. And I'm using a combination of joints and muscle groups to complete this movement. So I'm using my elbows, my shoulders, and a range of muscle groups. So this is called a compound exercise rather than a single isolated joint exercise where I might just work my elbow. You want to add resistance if just working against gravity is really quite easy, and you add resistance gradually. So one of the really simple ways that you can add resistance is to grab a dumbbell if you have one around the house. If not, any safe household object. So I have a water bottle here because I'm exercising. It's full with water. So I could do that same exercise that I just showed you, but now I have some resistance provided through this load. So here I'm showing a single arm press. If I had 2 water bottles filled with the same amount of water, of course, so that there's even balancing, even load, I could work them both at the same time. So a simple household object has provided me with a mechanism for adding resistance. Now I would want to aim for 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions. So a repetition is like this: 1, 2, 3, and I would go all the way through to 12 repetitions, 11, 12. And then I'd rest for 30 seconds and up to 1 minute. And then I would go again with another set of 12 repetitions, 1 through to 12. And I would do that for a total of 3 to 4 sets. So start with a few exercises, and you add new exercises every couple of weeks. Start low and increase slow. So what about aerobic exercises? What are they? Well, they're the kind of exercises where you exercise at a moderate level of intensity, and I will speak to how you can rate your level of intensity a bit later in this show. You want to do the kind of exercise that you can maintain for extended periods of time, and these are the exercises that cause your heart rate to increase as well as your breathing rate. So here's a rating of exertion level chart that will help you to get some understanding of what level you are exercising at. So if you were working at a rate that you perceived was a very light level of exertion, so minimal activity, could do it all day long, that might be a rating of 1 to 2. As you increased the exertion and you went into light activity, the kind of activity you could continue for hours, you might rate that as a 2 to 3 out of 10. And then we start moving to moderate. So this activity is more challenging. It's the kind of activity that involves things like walking fast. You could continue with this activity for quite some time, but it does cause a rise in heart rate and in breathing rate. Then we move into vigorous loads, and that's 6 to 7 out of 10 on exertion rating, and this is quite a challenging level. This is the kind of exercise that you can do, but not for that long. You could perhaps have a conversation, but you'd be having to take breaths in between sentences to be able to finish those sentences, and you feel like you're working quite hard. And then there's the very hard level, 8 to 9, or the maximum effort at 10, where it feels like you really couldn't continue this on for much more than a few seconds. So you're aiming for the moderate or the vigorous level of exercise. And if you're a new starter to exercise, you gradually increase to moderate. Just a note that when you're exercising, even if you're used to it, if you are having a flare associated with your arthritis, you should be exercising with the parameters that are comfortable for you at that time. So how can you do it? Well, there are a number of ways. You can use cardiovascular machines, the kind of equipment that you find in a gym, but also whilst you might be exercising at home, lots of people have stationary cycles that are sitting there unused. Now's the time to jump on them and start using them. Stepping exercises, so anything that involves stepping up, stepping down, that's an aerobic type of exercise. Dancing. There are also a number of classes available now online through Arthritis and Osteoporosis Western Australia. They are live streaming classes, so you can dial in from home, connect with an instructor in your living room and participate in an aerobics type exercise from home. So do check out our website. I'll put the details up at the end of this webinar so that you can have a look and see what we have available and on offer. Other equipment are things like dumbbells, TheraBand, which is a big elasticy band, and also body weight. So using your own weight against gravity. So standing up and sitting down in your chair multiple times. The other things are store covered items. You saw me using a filled bottle earlier as a method for using resistance. And you can also get cans of food, bags of potatoes, anything that you can lift safely. So are there any adverse effects associated with exercise? Well, the answer is yes, but they're very few. So the benefits of exercise generally outweigh the adverse side of exercise. The adverse effects are usually very mild and transient, and they're related to muscle soreness. So you would usually feel that the day after exercising or even 2 days after exercising. Of course, there is a risk that you could fall or sustain a sprain, a strain, some type of an injury whilst you exercise. But again, those types of events are few. The other thing that you can feel with exercise is increased fatigue. So I'll speak to you in the next slide about pacing as a management strategy. Just some safety advice. Stop if you experience any of the following, that is chest pain or discomfort, dizziness, palpitations, excessive shortness of breath, and you would need to seek medical advice if you felt any of those. And also a note, really, if you have this feeling of generally being unwell, particularly with upper respiratory tract infections, it's not a good time to be exercising. Be well, and then you can engage in that moderate and vigorous exercise level again. I'm going to give you some tips here, 10 top tips. So start with gentle activity and gradually increase. That's if you're a beginner. If you're already involved in exercise, continue at the same level that you're currently engaged in and gradually increase. We always have to be moving the goalposts and stressing our bodies so that we overload them appropriately so that we get a good physiological response. Our bodies are really good at adapting very quickly, and we need to keep challenging them through using things like either increased frequency of exercise, increased intensity, so how hard we exercise or how heavy we lift, or the increased duration, how long we're exercising for. Do learn to distinguish between muscle soreness versus joint pain. So people who live with arthritis and chronic musculoskeletal conditions will no doubt be used to having joint pains. Your joint might feel sore, it may be swollen a little bit. Generally, it's around the joint itself that you notice pain. That's very different to the type of muscle soreness that is associated with engaging in exercise. So learn to monitor the two. Muscle soreness generally will get better within 2 to 3 days. If you are feeling fatigue, particularly associated with systemic types of arthritis, you will need to pace. So what that means is if you're having a good day and you say, yes, I can do all of my exercise today, and you go all out. You lift as heavy as you can, you run as fast and as long as you can, and you do all the home exercises you could possibly imagine because you feel great. You're probably going to feel that tomorrow in terms of fatigue. So make sure that you manage that fatigue with pacing, and that's doing a little bit and often. Also, make sure that you work within your comfortable joint range limits. If you have stiff joints associated with arthritis, really pushing into excruciating pain to try and gain that last little few degrees of joint range of movement really isn't going to be providing much beneficial yield. Work within your comfortable joint range limits. So exercise as you can do comfortably. Wait at least a couple of hours after eating so you don't get indigestion. I said before, exercise only when you're feeling well. Drink fluids before, after and during your exercise. And also do wear sensible, loose, comfortable clothing and supportive footwear. And a final note, do just make sure that when you're thinking of exercising, the area that you're exercising within should be clear and free of hazards. We're offering lots of options online. That includes self-management programs, and they are specifically for rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis of the knee, and we'll be developing a general arthritis exercise really soon. Also ankylosing spondylitis. We offer a really good variable program of exercise that includes Cert 4 trained instructors who are leading exercise. It also includes registered physiotherapists. We have yoga, we have Tai Chi instructors, we have general arthritis exercise. So do have a look, there will be something that suits everybody there. We also have support groups that you can dial into or use one of our platforms to have online discussions and support group talks. And of course, our telephone and email inquiry and support lines remain open. So please give us a shout if you would like to speak to us. We are the peak not-for-profit and charitable organisation in WA representing consumers with musculoskeletal conditions and needs. So we are still here to take your calls and to support you where we can. This is a webinar. There are lots of other webinars available and more coming, so watch this space. And if you prefer just the really short, punchy education tips that can be delivered in 5 minutes, we have a number of education bites that are currently available on our website, and we will be developing as the time goes on. So thank you for listening to this webinar. Now I'm going to share my screen with you again. So this hopefully has provided you with some information that has been helpful. My aims of doing this was that you would understand why it was important to exercise, to be reassured that with arthritis and musculoskeletal conditions, indeed you can and should be exercising. I hope you understand why it's really important and all the benefits of participating in exercise, and that you've got some idea now of what a rep and a set means and what it means to exercise against gravity rather than resistance. So we will put up some links for you. Do click onto those links so that you can engage in exercise at home with instructor-led classes. And I've also made some videos showing you some examples of exercise that you can do at home, and you can just select, pick and choose which ones you would like to do. So bye for now, and I'll see you again in one of these videos in the future. Bye-bye.